Our top story now is more bodies in the river surfaced on Tuesday in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Corpses were seen floating under a bridge near the border between the two states in an escalating human tragedy amid COVID. A Bihar BJP MP, Janardhan Singh Sigrewal, alleged that bodies of COVID victims were being dumped into the river from ambulances driving on a bridge which is located in Bihar's Saran near the border with Balia and UP.
The story of the floating corpses, the horror of float, first in Bihar's Buxar and then in UP's Ghazipur. Just who is dumping bodies like this? Who is carrying out this act against humanity? Not even according dignity in death. While an investigation and a blame game between UP and Bihar is on. Shocking pictures have now emerged from the UP-Bihar border of bodies being tossed into the river from the Jayaprabha bridge. Locals say ambulance drivers are throwing bodies of COVID patients into the river.
संक्रमित लाशें बस 200 या 300 के आसपास होगी। सीओ साहब आए थे और ऊपर से देखकर चले गए।
क्या बोले?
बोले कि सफाई के लिए 500 रुपए देंगे, इसके बाद चले गए।
BJP MP from Bihar's Maharajganj says that the police must carry out patrolling so that bodies are not dumped into the river.
जेपी सेतु से जो छपरा बलिया के बीच में जो सेतु है उस पर से लोग बॉडी नीचे बीग देते हैं। मैंने जिला के पुलिस के बड़े पदाधिकारियों से भी और यहाँ के स्थानीय थाना प्रभारी से भी मैंने बात किया है। उस पर सख्ती करिए कि लोग बॉडी बीगे ना, उसको डिस्पोजल करने का जो तरीका है उस तरीका से करिए और उसके लिए प्रशासनिक स्तर पर वहाँ कराई हो, प्रशासनिक स्तर पर व्यवस्था हो। मैंने बड़ी अधिकारियों को भी और थाना प्रभारी को भी मैंने ऐसा आग्रह किया है।
Earlier this morning, people of Ghazipur's Gehmar village along the banks of river Ganges woke up to this horror, floating bodies in a state of decay, as if the fear of COVID spread wasn't scaring enough. The stench from these bodies spread fear of further disease.
इसकी जानकारी प्रशासन को पहले दे दी गई थी कि यहाँ पर लकड़ी के अभाव में यहाँ पर जो है जल प्रवाह किया जा रहा है, जिसमें गहमर, करहिया, खुदरा, बिहार के सीमावर्ती इलाके, पचौरी, सायर, ये लगभग 12-13 गांव के जल प्रवाह यहाँ पर हुए हैं। अभी तो दुर्गंध आ रही है। आने वाले भविष्य में यदि इसको नहीं रोका गया तो यहाँ पर महामारी फैल जाएगी।
Questions are now being asked of the local administration on who exactly is dumping these bodies. When no religion mandates consigning bodies to the river, when Hinduism mandates consigning bodies to flame, when Islam mandates a burial, then who and why has this unholy act happened in a holy river?
सूचना हमें थोड़ी देर पहले मिली है। हमारे अधिकारी गण मौके पर इस समय हैं, जांच चल रही है। हम ये चेक करा रहे हैं कि ये बॉडी कहां से आई है, कैसी है तो कहां है और कितनी संख्या में है। हमारे अधिकारी मौके पर चेक कर रहे हैं।
On Monday, reports came in of 50 corpses washing up on the banks of the river in Bihar's Buxar. Officials began a blame game, saying that may have been done in UP as Bihar does not have a tradition of dumping bodies in the river.
लाशें इधर गंगा जी में दिख रही हैं, 10-12 लाशें जो दिख रही हैं, उसका ये पता किया गया कि गंगा जी में ही दूर से प्रवाहित होकर वो लाशें आई हैं और वो हमारे घाट की तरफ वो किनारे पर लग गई हैं।
The real challenge now is to ascertain if more bodies have been dumped into the river and to also find out if these are locals who are scared to handle COVID bodies or are government officials complicit to keep the COVID death count low. The truth about this inhuman act will surely be ugly. With Ajay Singh, Kamal Khan and Manish Kumar, Bureau Report, NDTV.
News now from Madhya Pradesh. And amid rising critical cases of COVID and medical infrastructure stretched thin, a government hospital in Bhopal has reported that ventilators that were received under the PM CARES Fund are defective. The hospital also wrote to the district administration regarding the issue.
A ventilator broke down in Bhopal's famous Hamidia Hospital. Relatives claim that this led to the death of a COVID patient in the first week of May, a charge the hospital denied. NDTV is now in possession of a letter written by the doctors of this hospital to the superintendent saying that the ventilators purchased under the PM CARES are not working properly and it's difficult to manage critical patients and save their lives with them. So they need to be replaced. But the state government says there's nothing wrong with the ventilators purchased under PM CARES.
PM रिलीफ फंड से आए हुए वेंटिलेटर खराब क्वालिटी के हैं, कहीं भी ऐसी जानकारी नहीं मिली। अब ये तो मशीन है, बहुत बार कोई पीस में कहीं गलती आ जाती है, पर किसी पर्टिकुलर मत से आए हुए वेंटिलेटर खराब है ऐसी कोई जानकारी नहीं है। मैं तो बहुत धन्यवाद दूंगा इस देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री जी को कि उन्होंने देश में लगातार स्वास्थ्य सेवाओं के उन्नयन के लिए काम किया है और हमें इतनी बड़ी संख्या में वेंटिलेटर प्रोवाइड किए हैं।
It's not only about Bhopal. At a time when hospitals are facing a crisis due to an insufficient number of ventilators to treat COVID-19 patients, many of the ventilators supplied to the government hospitals under the PM CARES Fund are remaining idle due to technical glitches or unavailability of experts to operate them.
जैसे सुना है कि सूत्रों द्वारा कि ऐसी 67 हैं जो वेंटिलेटर खराब है, 5-6 ही चल रहे हैं।
नहीं, ये बात गलत है, ऐसे नहीं, कुछ खराब हैं, बाकी अधिकांश चल रहे हैं। ये खराब हैं।
वेंटिलेटर खराब नहीं है, वेंटिलेटर में ऑपरेशनल दिक्कत आ रही है और संबंधित कंपनी के इंजीनियर को बतला दिया गया है। अतिशीघ्र वो आके इसमें आवश्यक सुधार एवं आवश्यक कार्य करेंगे जिससे वेंटिलेटर चालू हो जाए।
अभी हमारे पास 2 पीएम केयर फंड से हमको मिले थे वो हैं और 2 दूसरे वेंटिलेटर, इस तरह से 4 वेंटिलेटर हमारे पास हैं और बायोपिक मशीन भी है एक, जो कि लायंस क्लब द्वारा दी गई थी। इनका यूज हम अभी एनेस्थेटिस्ट को बोला है तो वो यूज इसका शुरू करेंगे, और जो इसके लिए फिजिशियन और जो ट्रेन टेक्नीशियन चाहिए वो हमारे पास नहीं है, इसलिए हम अभी तक थोड़ा इसको शुरू नहीं कर पाए।
केयर फंड से 2 वेंटिलेटर हमारे पास आए हुए हैं जिसका कि कंपनी लेवल से इंस्टॉलेशन होना है। कंपनी लेवल पे हमने करस्पॉन्डेंस कर रखी हुई है और कंपनी वालों की तरफ से ही जो इंस्टॉलेशन होना है जिस पर फंक्शन हो जाएगा।
Before March 2020, a total of 993 ventilators were available in Madhya Pradesh. The state has now got 1,205 ventilators from the centre for over 1,11,223 active cases in the state. Neighbouring Chhattisgarh's Balod District Hospital got 6 ventilators, but only 2 have been installed.
मैं समझता हूँ कि MD मेडिसिन मेडिकल स्पेशलिस्ट और बढ़ाना चाहिए जिले में, जिससे कोविड पेशेंट को फायदा मिल सके और वेंटिलेटर की संचालन में सुविधा हो।
Chhattisgarh had even claimed that the state had received 230 ventilators from the PM CARES Fund, out of which many ventilators are not working.
Around 2 lakh patients across the country are on ventilator support. Around 10 lakh patients are on oxygen, and with the cases on the rise, the doctors at least should not struggle with the equipments. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Now, close to 90% of India is witnessing a high COVID positivity rate as 640 districts out of 734 are above the national threshold level of 5% positivity rate. This is what the centre said on Tuesday. Remember, positivity rate should be below 5%. The skyrocketing active caseload during the deadly second wave of COVID has overwhelmed hospitals and crematoriums. There's an acute shortage of medical oxygen and key drugs needed to treat the critically ill COVID patients. Officials have cautioned states about the spread of the virus to rural areas.
हम अगर केसेस को डे ऑन डे एनालाइज करें तो एक अर्ली ट्रेंड हम देखते हैं। पिछले 2 दिनों में एक डिक्लाइन इन केसेस नोट किया जा रहा है, जो कि 3,66,000 कल था, यानी कि पिछले उससे पहले 24 घंटों में था, जो कि घटकर 3,29,942 केसेस पिछले 24 घंटे में देश में नोट किया गया है।
Now, Dr. Balram also said that there is no need to do a second RT-PCR test, and that we're also moving from a 70 to 30 ratio of RT-PCR tests to the reverse of more rapid antigen tests.
RT-PCR tests must not be performed in individuals tested positive once, either by RAT or RT-PCR. We have to, in the field level and in rural areas and in areas which are hard to reach, we have to start using the rapid antigen tests more aggressively. Earlier our recommendation was 70% RT-PCR and 30% RAT, but now since the wave is raging, we have requested that we must do more RAT tests.
11 COVID patients died at a Tirupati hospital and Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister has blamed the delay in oxygen supplies from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Uma Sudhir reports that Jagan Mohan Reddy has asked the Prime Minister for enhanced oxygen allocation now for the state.
Disturbing visuals of patients in distress, attenders in panic, and medical staff desperately trying to save lives in the ICU wards of Tirupati's SVR Ruia Hospital on Monday night after oxygen supply was disrupted. Chittoor District Collector Harinarayan said oxygen supply disruption happened for 5 minutes and 11 people had died.
తగ్గడం ఇన్సిడెంట్ జరిగిందో కేవలం ఒక 5 నిమిషాలు మాత్రమే మనకు ఆ ఇన్సిడెంట్ అనేది జరిగింది. ఆ 5 నిమిషాల్లో వచ్చేసి ట్యాంకర్ రావడం మనం వెంటనే దాన్ని సరి చేయడం వల్ల చాలా ప్రాణాన్ని కాపాడగలిగాము.
Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy regretted that despite the government's best efforts to ensure oxygen, the tragedy could not be averted.
We had to airlift 6 ట్యాంకర్లను గన్నవరం ఎయిర్పోర్ట్ నుంచి we airlifted to Orissa. But these are testing times. I request all the collectors do not be disheartened by what has happened, but be more vigilant, become more and more humane.
The 10,000-litre oxygen storage tank at the 1,100-bed hospital with 150 ICU beds and 400 oxygen beds ran out because the oxygen supply was delayed from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister has now written to the Prime Minister asking for oxygen allocation to the state to be enhanced from 590 metric tons to 910 metric tons. With inputs from Tirupati, with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy has now written to the Prime Minister asking him to direct Bharat Biotech to do technology transfer of Covaxin vaccine and have more vaccines produced. Let's go across to Uma Sudhir now for more on this story. And Uma, this is a point that many experts have also raised since ICMR is a partner in the production or in creating the Covaxin vaccine, that why can't we ramp up production by sharing it with other companies that are capable of manufacturing it?
Yes, indeed. Hyderabad, of course, is one of the world leaders, in fact, in production of vaccine itself. And India, of course, is a world leader. And therefore, the Chief Minister, in fact, putting across this point, pointing out that in a state like Andhra Pradesh, where, in fact, they have about 1,87,000 positive cases, even though they are going to be imposing curfews and other kind of restrictions, vaccine is the only way out. And the kind of pace at which vaccination has been going on, he was in fact the first Chief Minister to point out that just to complete the second dose of vaccination for those above 45, it will take till September, and if we have to reach out to 18 plus, it will take till January at least. That's the minimum kind of time period that he is talking about, and that's only because vaccines are not available. And he had said that we have in fact capable of giving as many as 6 lakh to 10 lakh vaccines per day in case the vaccine supply is available. And therefore now he is flagging this very important issue that's also there in the Apex Code, saying that technology transfer must be given to whoever is interested and capable, pointing out that there are capacities in the countries which need to be used in order to ramp up the numbers, because very obviously Covaxin is not able to do that by itself. And he has pointed out that of course ICMR, NIV can share the virus while these people can transfer the technology so that the numbers can in fact go up. Back to you.
Right, Uma, also in Telangana now a lockdown has finally been announced. Tell us what's allowed and what's not.
Gargi, even this lockdown came after the High Court was in fact quite quite harsh on the government, saying that with such kind of high numbers, the Chief Secretary, soon after the High Court had suggested lockdown, had in fact held a press conference to say that lockdown may not be necessary. That's what happened yesterday in the morning, after which the cabinet met, and soon afterwards this lockdown announcement came. As you can see, this is a queue for vegetables here in Hyderabad, and this is something that obviously we are going to see during the 6 to 10 a.m. Window that has been given to everyone, meaning only a 4-hour window every day during which you can go and get your essentials. And what is going to be open is, of course, all the essential services, the medical shops, the warehousing, the power utilities, the water and sanitation, LPG supply will be on. All that now people have understood is going to be part of the standard operating procedure, that these are essentials that are not going to be compromised. The second part is no interstate buses. Yesterday there was this controversy about, last couple of days, in fact, that ambulances are not being allowed to come in from Andhra Pradesh into Telangana, because Telangana felt that its own medical infrastructure is getting very hugely stretched. Now, of course, interstate buses have been stopped. The High Court, however, did say that you cannot stop ambulances because that would be violative. In fact, the lawyer had argued that would be violative of the rights under Article 15 and 21. And in fact, the Telangana is now looking at a 10-day lockdown, which will be reviewed. Of course, this people were expecting that this could happen after the Ramadan festival, which of course is very, very important with a huge Muslim population that we have here. But the government chose to start the lockdown from today onwards. No RTC buses, no metros beyond the 10 a.m. deadline. In fact, metro will only run between early morning 7 a.m. to 8:45 in the morning will be the last metro that will be running here in the city. Back to you, Gandhi.
Right, Uma. So finally, that much needed lockdown begins in Telangana. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, Karnataka has overtaken Maharashtra to become the state reporting the highest number of new cases in 24 hours. To compare, Mumbai's positivity rate is down to 6%, while Bengaluru is at a whopping 40%. The numbers have put a strain on health workers, hospital infrastructure and oxygen availability. But some relief appeared with the arrival of the state's first oxygen express.
A breath of hope in the form of 120 tons of liquid oxygen arriving in Whitefield on the outskirts of Bengaluru on Tuesday morning. The Oxygen Express from Tata Nagar was given the highest priority to reach the state where people have died for want of oxygen.
Actually, all those systems are already in place. It depends on the priority what to give. Normally, Mail Express gets higher priority than this one. It takes more time. Systems are already in place. Our people, because this was a special importance train, so our people throughout the night, throughout the day, they were monitoring it minute by minute basis. That is something which normally we're not able to do for every train.
Many hospitals in the state have been struggling with shortage of oxygen, both in districts and in capital Bengaluru. Visiting a COVID war room, with hospital beds still hard to come by, the Chief Minister said doctors should tell patients who are getting better in hospital to go home to free up precious hospital beds.
ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಈಗ 30 ದಿನ 337 ಜನ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅಗತ್ಯ ಏನಿದೆ? ಅವ್ರು ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಜಾಗ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ 20 ದಿನ ಇರುವಂಥವ್ರು 503 ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಥರ ಅನಗತ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದೇನೆ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟ್ಲಲ್ಲೇ ಇತ್ತು. ಯಾರು ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಆಗದೆ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಸಹ ಈ ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳು ಇದರಿಂದ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಬಹಳ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥಿತವಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನು
The BBMP is starting to decentralize COVID management to the ward level in an attempt to improve matters in the city with the highest number of active cases in India. The state's vaccination drive, like that in the rest of the country, has been hit by shortage of supply. Biocon's Kiran Mazumdar tweeted, very concerned about why vaccines are in such short supply. If a timetable of supplies is made public, people can patiently wait their turn. With Govind Murthy, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
For that time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, how Bengal has reported over 20,000 daily COVID cases for the first time. Welcome back. Now, India on Tuesday recorded its lowest count of daily COVID cases in 14 days, but still well beyond the 3 lakh mark. And while several states are showing a decline in cases, there's a rise in others, like in Bengal, where for the first time daily case count has crossed 20,000. In fact, 20,136 new COVID infections were reported in Bengal in the last 24 hours. 132 people died during that period. Of the 132 deaths, 37 took place in Kolkata, 39 in 24 Parganas. And a look at Uttar Pradesh. Now, the UP government, remember, has decided to extend the lockdown or the curfew till the 17th of May in view of the COVID cases. And 20,463 fresh COVID cases were reported in Uttar Pradesh, 306 deaths. And in fact, Meerut has reported the highest number of cases at 1,368. And Noida reported 1,229 fresh cases, while Lucknow reported 1,154. In fact, there are fears that cases are not being counted enough in Uttar Pradesh. And recently, as we reported earlier in the show, the case of bodies being dumped straight into the Ganga. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not travel to the United Kingdom for the G7 summit in June, is what the government has said. The Prime Minister was to be a special invitee to the G7 summit in Cornwall on June 11th to 13th at UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's invitation. While appreciating the invitation to the Prime Minister by the UK Prime Minister to attend the G7 summit as a special invitee given the prevailing COVID situation, it has been decided that the Prime Minister will not attend the summit in person, is what the Foreign Ministry spokesperson said. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll get you more updates on the vaccination drive.
आज केवल 2 कंपनियां वैक्सीन बना रही हैं। ये दोनों मिलके महीने में केवल 6-7 करोड़ वैक्सीन बनाती हैं। तो इस तरह तो हम देश के हर व्यक्ति को वैक्सीन लगाने में हमें 2 साल से ज्यादा टाइम लग जाएगा। तब तक तो कोविड की पता नहीं कितनी लहरें आ जाएंगी, कितनी बर्बादी हो जाएगी। इसलिए जरूरी है कि हम भारत में वैक्सीन का उत्पादन युद्ध स्तर पे बढ़ाएं और देश के हर नागरिक को अगले कुछ महीने में वैक्सीन लगाने की राष्ट्रीय योजना बनाएं।
Now, Maharashtra said it is slowing down the COVID vaccination process for those in the 18 to 44 age group to focus on those aged above, that due to a shortage of the doses in the state, there will, however, be no stoppage of the vaccination, is what the state health minister said.
We have to divert our vaccine, which we had purchased from the market for the group of age group 18 to 44. We had diverted approximately 3 lakh vaccines, and we have now stopped 18 to 44 years the vaccination program. Means we have kept that in abeyance, I mean to say, making it available to the 45 plus age group.
Now, another worry is the digital divide in accessing the vaccinations, and in Mumbai, that's adding to the worries of increasing the vaccinations. People who don't have smartphones or who aren't tech savvy are getting left out.
Shanta Mane and Nasimunisa live in Mumbai's Mankhurd area. Both are not vaccinated yet. Reason? Neither they have smartphones nor they know the process of registering on government's CoWIN portal. They say there is no one to help them around and claim no government representative came in their neighborhood to help.
लाईन हे मोठी आहे आणि मग कोरोनाचे इंजेक्शन घ्यायला जायचं त्या लाईनीत मग कोरोना तिथंच झाल्यावर काय करायचं उन्हात तानाचं मग त्या बारक्या फोनला घेऊन काय करायचं त्या मोठ्या फोनला भी घेऊन काय करायचं
किस तरह मोबाइल पे बोले हैं वैक्सीन को डाउनलोड करो हम लोग को तो मोबाइल भी चलाना नहीं आता तो क्या डाउनलोड करें कैसे हम वहां तक पहुंचेंगे
Shanta Vaidande irons clothes for livelihood. She stays with her husband who recently lost his job in the lockdown. She doesn't have the money to buy a smartphone to get herself registered on CoWIN.
नोंदणी करा आता आपल्याला मोबाईल पण जवळ नाही नोंदणी करता येत नाही आपल्याला मग कशा करायची काय करायचं मोबाईल तर पाहिजे आपल्याकडे मोबाईल भी नाही आता तसला मोबाईल घ्यायला 10-15-20 हजार आपण कुठून आणायचं आपण घर बसली माणसं.
But it is not just the digital divide, but lack of awareness too.
लोगों को ऐसे लगता है कि वैक्सीन लेने के बाद मौत हो रही है
तो वैसे जिस बारे में अवेयरनेस गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से होना चाहिए कि लसीकरण के बाद मौत नहीं होती है, वो सुरक्षित है, उस तरह का अवेयरनेस बस्तियों में नहीं हो रहा है।
In Mumbai's RA, tribals are not even aware of the process and even heard a lot of rumors that vaccine may not be good for them.
कुछ अफवाहें भी है, तो उसके बारे में कोई सरकारी लोग यहाँ पे आए, जो रिस्पॉन्सिबल जो व्यक्ति है वो आए और यहाँ पे लोगों को अवेयरनेस करे गांव-गांव में जाके, तो शायद वो बात बन सकती है।
Mumbai civic body BMC started vaccination drive with vaccinating nearly 50,000 people at the start. But BMC does not have a separate data for slums versus non-slums. As per BMC dashboard, as of May 10th, over 25,000 people were vaccinated in the city of Mumbai. This is up from 16,576 people who got vaccinated on May 9. Vaccination drive in Mumbai has hit a roadblock. Because there aren't enough vaccines, but also there's a big digital divide because the government expects the people to register first and then come and take the vaccine, but not many people are literate enough to handle a smartphone. Also, not many even have a smartphone. In Mumbai with Sohit Mishra and camera person Praveen Jirohit, this is Purva Chitnas for NDTV.
The Assam Cabinet has cleared the COVID action plan, details which will be announced later. The Cabinet meeting chaired by the Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma gave approval to several other key decisions. Despite a rapid spike in COVID positive cases and the death toll due to COVID, Assam government for the time being has ruled out a total lockdown. Instead, it is trying to implement a stringent COVID action plan and also plans to come up with an economic package that could be announced post 15 days of the COVID action plan being enforced and in case of further strict steps needing to be taken.
Thoroughly discussed about some decisions will be briefed tomorrow by 11 by the Chief Secretary and by the DGP of the state. Lockdown decision yet to be taken, but some strict decisions will be followed up from day after, I believe. And one more decision taken we have in the cabinet. All ministers will be given 2-3 districts to monitor COVID situation. All ministers will go from day after, and within 2 days they will have to come back and to give the report to Honorable CM and the Health Minister.
Now, today is International Nurses Day and the 200th birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale. The World Health Organization has highlighted the importance of nurses this year who've been at the forefront of fighting the pandemic. The COVID pandemic is a stark reminder of the vital role nurses play. The WHO said the theme for this year is nursing the world to health, and despite the dismal nurse-to-patient ratio, these healthcare workers have been at the forefront of the COVID pandemic. Well, to talk more about the sacrifice and the work that nurses are doing, let's go across to Sam Daniel, who's joined by some of those nurses.
Thank you, Gargi. That's right. I have come to you from the Gleneagles Global Health City in Chennai, and with me a group of nurses. Thank you all very much and happy International Nurses Day. Hats off to your sacrifice and your commendable work fighting this pandemic from the front line. And if I can begin with you, how has life changed over the last 1 year? I know you are newly married.
Being a nurse was never easy. Pandemic was new to the whole world. But we being in the frontline workers, I think we should take up the courage to show the world that we stand for all of you. So that is what we've done. And being newly married, yes, the expectation from the home was really high. They expected me to stay at home. But my work, being a nurse, demanded me to be here for longer times because it was new, the pandemic was new, and we had to work for the patients. The courage that we show will help them get better and get recovered faster. And we have seen so many patients getting better very faster because we motivate them and we be with them. So I think.
Right. And you've been away from home for 6 months. Tell us about the kind of sacrifice nurses like you make.
Yes, I'm not.
A bit louder.
Yes, I'm lost 6 months. I'm not be on a home. Parents were worried about that, and also I am a nurse. I have to take care of my patient and sacrifice to the patient, and also the management take care of what I was worried about we are missing our parents also. The management will take care of us, and then they are motivate us.
What does your family tell you?
The family is ensure about the management are supporting us. They are very support us for it's okay. Will be on management is taking care of you. You will be there. It is safe us to stay in the hospital.
You handle both extremes. There are cases where number of patients bounce back to life, recovering fully well. There are patients who don't make it.
Yes.
How do you handle these two?
If you can see about the patients who bounce back. So even if a slightest recovery this patient shows, it's like a Siemens joy for us, because it's such a good improvement, a good recovery for the patient. And if they get discharged and go home, that is a good and emotional moment for us. That is an achievement for us in our COVID period. And if a patient is not able to recover, like even a young patient who is just very young, and even if given all of measures, but if he or she is not recovering, it's such a pain in our heart. But we can't show it out to us, because and we can't be sympathizing, but we can be empathetic and comfort the patient's family, as well as ensure and be stand with them and support them.
Right.
And if the patient is, but as a nurse, even
Do you ever think enough is enough?
No, never. We always wait the last moment, the last breath the patient gives. We try our best to make the patient come back to life. Yeah.
Dr. Gloria, you're in charge of 6 hospitals.
Yes.
You train nurses, you motivate them. What is one major challenge? They are under severe stress. How do you keep them motivated?
Yeah. The trend that we see from 2020 to 2021 is nurses, when I ask them, what is the one thing that you want from us as management? They said, it's very painful to see young patients dying and they are for a longer time in bed. So that is demotivating them. They only wish all the patients get well soon and go home. So what we do is we do some stress busters, we connect with them. What more? Just give ears to listen to them. So we leaders also give ears to listen to them, one-to-one connect, and then also have some fun time whenever they have a break. And during duty time also, like we give extra PPEs. Suppose they get disturbed, they just have to just doff off, and then they use another PPE so that they have a break and they have a confidence that they can break during shifts as well. And see, Maslow's hierarchy is very important. Basic is food and all other comforts. So we see that the ACs are little higher in the working environment so that they don't sweat and perspire. We ensure that breaks are given for them. So powerful drinks and nutritive bites are given to them. So that is what all about.
Thank you so much, sister, and thank you very much for your sacrifice, for your great work, and hats off to you.
Thank you.
Certainly, Gargi, a sense of how nurses have been dealing with this pandemic over the last 1 year and how they beat the fatigue and also the severe stress they come under often.
Right, Sam, can't even imagine the kind of, conditions and the stress that they're undergoing. Thanks so much for joining us and getting us those voices. We're now also joined by 2 nurses from Delhi, Ms. Nilima Singhare, Senior Nursing Officer at AIIMS, and Shikha Kora, Staff Nurse at the Apollo IMCL, New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and thank you so much for the service that you're doing. Ms. Nilima Singhare, I'd like to start with you. This has been a very, very difficult time. It's been stressful for everyone just to watch the news and to, know the kind of situation in our hospitals. Tell us about how do you keep yourself motivated?
See, everywhere we are seeing that people are only talking about COVID. This pandemic has brought down everybody mentally so low, and nurses are not nurses are also human beings. So we need to understand that nurses are also having families, they are also having heart, they have emotions. So people are looking towards nurses like they are saying nurses are angels, they are God has given gift to them. Everything is okay. On this International Nurses Day, I would like to give a message from all the nurses. We are working from heart to heart for each and every patient. We are trying to do whatever we can do for the patient. It is not necessary that every patient we could save their life, but we are near them and we are with them when they are taking their last breath also. As the previous nurse already told about this, but I am also working as a palliative care nurse, so I know it is very hard time when somebody loses their family member. And this pandemic has shown us that even family members are also not with the patient. They are talking with the patient through teleconferencing or video calling, and they are coming to know what the patient's condition is. So this is a very terrific time for common people or the patient or the families whose patients are admitted in the hospitals far from them, and they are not there with them in their last time. But nurses are there. And don't ever think that nurses are like some people. They ask me, from you are working so long, 19 years in this profession, you must not be getting shaken by the deaths or the shaken by the every day. As I am working in cancer also, so this cancer department, we have seen many deaths. So people think that we don't have heart, we don't have feelings, but it's not like that. Just because of our profession, we cannot take this feeling to our home. We cannot take this feeling too long with us. One day, with family and to shy side. Stick change I have to show during my
Right. We seem to be having a bit of an audio problem, but I can completely, understand, in this last year, the amount we've seen of nurses and the sacrifices that they've been making in helping patients. And what's also been difficult, as you pointed out, Ms. Singhade, is the fact that if families can't be with the COVID patient. I think that has been something that has been really very difficult to deal with so many people. There's no personal touch, and for the COVID patients, the only personal touch does come from the doctors and nurses who are taking care of them. Shikha Kohra, if you could also share with us, some of the, challenges that you're facing, and also the sacrifice that many of you nurses are making, because you have to stay away from your own families at a time like this.
Yes, most definitely. First, I would like to wish all the nurses a very happy Nurses Day. The challenges which we faced, as I recall last year when I was told that I have to work in a COVID unit, my parents were very worried. Usually it is from the parents from where we get most of the support. So when they got worried, even I got worried. So but at the end of the day, being a nurse, the only question that I asked myself was, if not we, then who? Who would go if we are not willing to go? So that was the only question that came to my mind. And that gave me the strength, and also our management was very supportive. They gave us everything that we needed to for comfortable COVID duties. So that made our duties very comfortable, and also dealing with the difficulties would definitely be right now. It's an avalanche of COVID patients in Delhi right now because the third wave, because of the third wave, and we are getting so many patients at a time. There are practically no beds in hospitals, and recently we had oxygen crisis that made the situation more worse. But here we are trying our best to keep our patients happy with all the supplies that we have. So that's how we are dealing with, and also we have a very good protocols in place that helps us to follow all the required needs while taking care of a patient.
Right, and it's just to imagine you, all of you putting in those hours in those PPE suits. It must be, really, really tiring for you, and having to keep your morale up. Ms. Nilima Singhade, given the sacrifice that you're all making away from your families, putting in these long hours, working in these difficult situations with, PPE kits, and also in a situation where you're the only person who is in touch with the patients, they can't even have their family members around them. I think I'd like you to just, give a message to the viewers about a little sacrifice that they can make in terms of keeping safe, staying home, and ensuring that we can stop the spread of this disease, given, the tremendous sacrifice all of you are making in taking care of patients.
I really thankful to NDTV that you have given this chance to nurses to speak about this. Because today also when we are seeing such a panic condition all over in India, still people I see, many of them are not wearing simple masks. So this is very horrifying. When I saw anybody walking on the track, walking without mask and with their kids also. So from this platform, I would like to give a message to all the people that we are trying our best, but you need to be very careful that you should not come to the hospital with only because of your simple mistake, that is not wearing mask, not washing proper, not doing proper hand washing practices, and not practicing social distancing. Try to avoid going anywhere if it is not at all necessary. This is very, very important. And please, 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 this is my sincere request to all of you. Please wear mask everywhere you are going. And as we all know that third wave is coming, and this is very dangerous. Prediction is that it is dangerous for kids also. So I request all the people that they should keep this practice of wearing mask and wear it properly. Not wearing the mask, it's not only the thing. People are wearing the mask, but their mask is on their chin or below their nose. So they should be properly educated that mask should cover their nose completely, and the air from the nose should not come out of the mask. So they should learn how to wear the mask, wear any mask, triple layer, surgical mask, cloth mask, any mask. But please wear mask whenever you are going outside, and keep your children, yourself, your elders safe. That is all what I want to say from this platform. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Nilima Singhare and Shikha Kaura, for joining us, and really a little sacrifice that each one of us can make, given the tremendous service that nurses are doing, that you are doing. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. More news on the other side. Stay with us. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Our top story is more bodies in the Ganga have surfaced in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Corpses were seen floating under a bridge near the border between the two states in an escalating human tragedy amid COVID. A Bihar BJP MP Janardhan Singh Sigriwal has now alleged that bodies of COVID victims were being dumped into the river from ambulances driving on the bridge located in Bihar's Saran near the border with Balia in UP.
The story of the floating corpses, the horror afloat, first in Bihar's Buxar and then in UP's Ghazipur. Just who is dumping bodies like this? Who is carrying out this act against humanity? Not even according dignity in death. While an investigation and a blame game between UP and Bihar is on. Shocking pictures have now emerged from the UP-Bihar border of bodies being tossed into the river from the Jayaprabha bridge. Locals say ambulance drivers are throwing bodies of COVID patients into the river.
संक्रमित लाशें बस 200 या 300 के आसपास होगी। सीओ साहब आए थे और ऊपर से देखकर चले गए। क्या बोले? बोले कि सफाई के लिए 500 रुपए देंगे, इसके बाद चले गए।
BJP MP from Bihar's Maharajganj says that the police must carry out patrolling so that bodies are not dumped into the river.
जेपी सेतु से जो छपरा बलिया के बीच में जो सेतु है उस पर से लोग बॉडी नीचे बिक देते हैं। मैंने जिला के पुलिस के बड़े पदाधिकारियों से भी और यहाँ के स्थानीय थाना प्रभारी से भी मैंने बात किया है। उस पर सख्ती करिए कि लोग बॉडी बिगे ना, उसको डिस्पोजल करने का जो तरीका है उस तरीका से करिए और उसके लिए प्रशासनिक स्तर पर वहाँ कराई हो, प्रशासनिक स्तर पर व्यवस्था हो। मैंने बड़ी अधिकारियों को भी और थाना प्रभारी को भी मैंने ऐसा आग्रह किया है।
People of Ghazipur's Gehmar village along the banks of river Ganges woke up to this horror, floating bodies in a state of decay, as if the fear of COVID spread wasn't scaring enough. The stench from these bodies spread fear of further disease.
इसकी जानकारी प्रशासन को पहले दे दी गई थी कि यहाँ पर लकड़ी के अभाव में यहाँ पर जो है जल प्रवाह किया जा रहा है, जिसमें गहमर, कढ़िया, खुदरा, बिहार के सीमावर्ती इलाके, पचौरी, सायर, ये लगभग 12-13 गांव के जल प्रवाह यहाँ पर हुए हैं। अभी तो दुर्गंध आ रही है, आने वाले भविष्य में यदि इसको नहीं रोका गया तो यहाँ पर महामारी फैल जाएगी।
Questions are now being asked of the local administration on who exactly is dumping these bodies. When no religion mandates consigning bodies to the river, when Hinduism mandates consigning bodies to flame, when Islam mandates a burial, then who and why has this unholy act happened in a holy river?
सूचना हमें थोड़ी देर पहले मिली है, हमारे अधिकारीगण मौके पर इस समय हैं, जांच चल रही है। हम ये चेक करा रहे हैं कि ये डेड बॉडीज कहाँ से आई हैं, कैसी हैं तो कहाँ है और कितनी संख्या में है, हमारे अधिकारी मौके पर चेक कर रहे हैं।
On Monday, reports came in of 50 corpses washing up on the banks of the river in Bihar's Buxar. Officials began a blame game, saying that may have been done in UP as Bihar does not have a tradition of dumping bodies in the river.
लाशें इधर गंगा जी में दिख रही हैं, 10-12 लाशें जो दिख रही हैं, उसका ये पता किया गया कि गंगा जी में ही दूर से प्रवाहित होकर वो लाशें आई हैं और वो हमारे घाट की तरफ और किनारे पर लग गई हैं।
The real challenge now is to ascertain if more bodies have been dumped into the river and to also find out if these are locals who are scared to handle COVID bodies or are government officials complicit to keep the COVID death count low. The truth about this inhuman act will surely be ugly. With Ajay Singh, Kamal Khan and Manish Kumar, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Now, amid rising critical cases of COVID and the medical infrastructure stretched thin, a government hospital in Bhopal has reported that ventilators that were received under the PM CARES Fund have been found to be defective. The hospitals also wrote to the district administration regarding this issue, and relatives have alleged that a COVID patient died due to a faulty ventilator.
A ventilator broke down in Bhopal's famous Hamidia Hospital. Relatives claim that this led to the death of a COVID patient in the first week of May, a charge the hospital denied. NDTV is now in possession of a letter written by the doctors of this hospital to the superintendent saying that the ventilators purchased under the PM CARES are not working properly and it's difficult to manage critical patients and save their lives with them. So they need to be replaced. But the state government says there's nothing wrong with the ventilators purchased under PM CARES.
PM Relief Fund से आए हुए वेंटिलेटर खराब क्वालिटी के हैं, कहीं भी ऐसी जानकारी नहीं मिली। अब ये तो मशीन है, बहुत बार कोई पीस में कहीं गलती आ जाती है, पर किसी पर्टिकुलर मत से आए हुए वेंटिलेटर खराब है ऐसी कोई जानकारी नहीं है। मैं तो बहुत धन्यवाद दूंगा इस देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री जी को कि उन्होंने देश में लगातार स्वास्थ्य सेवाओं के उन्नयन के लिए काम किया है और हमें इतनी बड़ी संख्या में वेंटिलेटर प्रोवाइड किए हैं।
It's not only about Bhopal. At a time when hospitals are facing a crisis due to an insufficient number of ventilators to treat COVID-19 patients, many of the ventilators supplied to the government hospitals under the PM CARES Fund are remaining idle due to technical glitches or unavailability of experts to operate them.
जैसे सुना है कि सूत्रों द्वारा कि ऐसी 67 हैं जो वेंटिलेटर खराब है, 5-6 ही चल रहे हैं।
नहीं, ये बात गलत है, ऐसे नहीं, कुछ खराब हैं, बाकी अधिकांश चल रहे हैं। ये खराब हैं।
वेंटिलेटर खराब नहीं है, वेंटिलेटर में ऑपरेशनल दिक्कत आ रही है और संबंधित कंपनी के इंजीनियर को बतला दिया गया है, अतिशीघ्र वो आके इसमें आवश्यक सुधार एवं आवश्यक कार्य करेंगे जिससे वेंटिलेटर चालू हो जाए।
अभी हमारे पास 2 PM केयर फंड से हमको मिले थे वो हैं और 2 दूसरे वेंटिलेटर, इस तरह से 4 वेंटिलेटर हमारे पास हैं और बाइपेक मशीन भी है एक, जो कि लायंस क्लब द्वारा दी गई थी। इनका यूज हम अभी एनेस्थेटिस्ट को बोला है तो वो यूज इसका शुरू करेंगे, और जो इसके लिए फिजिशियन और जो ट्रेन टेक्नीशियन चाहिए वो हमारे पास नहीं है, इसलिए हम अभी तक थोड़ा इसको शुरू नहीं कर पाए।
केयर फंड से 2 वेंटिलेटर हमारे पास आए हुए हैं, जिसका कि कंपनी लेवल से इंस्टॉलेशन होना है। कंपनी लेवल पे हमने करस्पॉन्डेंस कर रखी हुई है और कंपनी वालों की तरफ से ही जो इंस्टॉलेशन होना है जिस पर फंक्शन हो जाएगा।
Before March 2020, a total of 993 ventilators were available in Madhya Pradesh. The state has now got 1,205 ventilators from the centre for over 1,11,223 active cases in the state. Neighboring Chhattisgarh's Balod District Hospital got 6 ventilators, but only 2 have been installed.
मैं समझता हूं कि एमडी मेडिसिन मेडिकल स्पेशलिस्ट और बढ़ाना चाहिए जिले में, जिससे कोविड पेशेंट को फायदा मिल सके और वेंटिलेटर की संचालन में सुविधा हो.
Chhattisgarh had even claimed that the state had received 230 ventilators from the PM CARES Fund, out of which many ventilators are not working.
Around 2 lakh patients across the country are on ventilator support. Around 10 lakh patients are on oxygen, and with the cases on the rise, the doctors at least should not struggle with the equipments. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Now, close to 90% of the country is witnessing a high COVID positivity rate, as 640 districts out of 734 are above the national threshold level of 5% positivity rate, is what the centre said during its briefing yesterday. The skyrocketing active caseload during the deadly second wave of coronavirus has overwhelmed the hospitals and crematoriums. There's also an acute shortage of medical oxygen and key drugs needed to treat the critically ill COVID patients. Officials have cautioned states about the spread of the virus to rural areas. Now, the Allahabad High Court on the COVID surge said that the Election Commission and government failed to fathom the consequences of holding the Panchayat elections in the midst of the second wave of coronavirus. The court observations are part of an order granting anticipatory bail to a UP builder, and the court said bail on special grounds of apprehension of death over COVID can be granted. The court said recent UP Panchayat elections contributed to the COVID surge. Well, to talk more about the COVID situation in the country, we're now joined by Dr. Neeraj Nishchal, Associate Professor, Department of Medicine, AIIMS, Delhi, Dr. Girish Navasundi, Senior Cardiologist, Apollo Hospital, Bengaluru, and Dr. Viveka Kumar, Principal Director, Cardiac Science, Pan Max Healthcare. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us. Dr. Nishchal, first to you. While in Delhi, it does seem that it's plateaued somewhat. Cases are coming down, positivity rate is coming down, but now the big challenge for the government is the spread to rural areas. Already over 90% of the country is reporting a very high positivity rate.
Yes, it seems the restrictions which have been put in place over last 2-3 weeks is helping in that way. But again, it's not a long-term solution. Now, people have to understand that if we are not careful, this thing is going to strike us again. And the same thing which we are seeing in rural areas where during last peak, somehow things were under control, it has not reached there. So again, this message has to go in rural areas as well, and the people there have to be basically primed that this disease can spread rapidly, and they have to take care to basically prevent spread of this disease. There is no other way one can stop this except vaccination and following COVID appropriate protocols.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Girish, there in Karnataka now, a big worry with Karnataka reporting higher daily cases than Maharashtra, at least yesterday it did. And even though you are under lockdown, so far it seems that the cases are simply rising.
Absolutely, Ms. Gargi. I think wherever there is higher density and, movement of people, it is going to rise. And the quicker it rises, I think quicker it would also fall down. As a city, I think it's very important for the citizens to have faith in science and follow the request from the health authorities to really follow whatever the instructions have been given in terms of prevention. That is, mask, stay at home, work from home. Otherwise, vaccine would take years to vaccinate everybody. I think the self-restraint is the need of the hour, and it's up to the citizens.
And what is the oxygen situation like now in Karnataka? Yesterday, there were reports of the Oxygen Express having come in. Is that situation now somewhat under control?
It was very difficult few days ago. I mean, there were 2 reasons for it. I think we had not anticipated the speed of surge that would happen. Otherwise, there was no significant lack of oxygen, but the need in a short period overshot the supply chain. Now it looks far better, but I think still there is a great need to enhance the capacity and supply chain. But the situation is slightly better than a couple of days ago.
Right. Dr. Kumar, now during this second wave of the pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about how younger people are getting more affected this time around. Though yesterday during its briefing, because we do need, a scientific sort of a study on this to know, is it a percentage of higher younger people that are falling ill, or is it just absolute numbers, because we're seeing so many of them. And yesterday during the media briefing, the health ministry seemed to suggest that it's because more young people were going out and about, and also because we have this variant that is more infectious, so we have an absolute number of young people falling sicker this time.
Yeah, that's right. So if you see this time, there is a increased younger population, and if you look yesterday's data, almost 50% of the death is between the age group of 20 to 40. So that's very, very alarming. And there could be various reasons, but to my mind, it is the mutant variety which is creating the havoc. Obviously, it has gone into as the other specialist has also said, that it has gone into the family, beyond the community level. Everybody is getting infected, and the younger people, thinking from past experience that in last pandemic, stage 1, they were protected, but this time they are the ones who are bearing the brunt, and I think that's huge loss to the society. So apart from getting the vaccination fast, we need to adhere to the social distancing and masking, and I think the lockdown, partial or in such a way, it should be enforced so that the younger population is also made aware about the severity and they are protected from this.
Right. Dr. Nischal, another big concern has been the spread of cases of this black fungus, mucormycosis, that is being reported from different parts of the country. And one of the reasons is being said because of overuse of perhaps steroids or heavy medication that really affects the immunity protection that a person has. And also, is it also because our hospitals need to be cleaner? We get a lot of questions regarding this. So if you could just tell us, why are we seeing so many cases in India?
See, again, the cases of the mucormycosis which we are seeing usually is confined to patients who are immunosuppressed for any reason, whether they are diabetic or are transplant patients or any immunosuppression because of any reason. And when these patients receive steroid or even tocilizumab as a part of management of COVID-19, their immunosuppression may further increase. And this fungus may be there in air also. It's not only hospital, it can also, when you go back home, you can get infection there. Or you may have prior subtle infection, indolent infection, which become aggravated when you are immunosuppressed further. So, of course, there is a theoretical possibility that all these patients, especially the immunosuppressed who will receive steroids and tocilizumab and other immunosuppressants, have higher chances of developing these type of complications. So, we have to be on lookout. A little sign or warning sign, we have to look actively so that these patients can be caught early, and before they have life-threatening complication, we can pick and treat them. So that's why it's very important. Now somehow the message has gone out that steroid is the treatment for all sort of COVID-19, and people start taking it in first week itself, which is so wrong. And steroid in high dose should not be given unless indicated for some other reason. So rampant misuse of steroid, I will say, is actually maybe the driving force for getting such type of infections. And regarding the young generation, I also would like to put one more point, that they have been thinking that this infection, they are immune to that. And because of that, they have been neglecting their symptoms for initial 1 week. And once they get sick, then they seek medical attention. And I feel that is the most important cause why they are losing lives. Because initial 1 week, they are very careless. They feel, okay, no. And most of the time, they have some elderly in their family. They are taking care of them without realizing that they have got infected, and they also need care. They need rest. And that is something they are missing. And that could be one of the driving force behind the high mortality among young population.
Right, that has also been spoken of by experts. Dr. Girish, we're talking about medication, and there's been a lot of interest around ivermectin as a medication that could perhaps work as a prophylaxis that prevents COVID. You have Goa announcing that they're going to be giving it to all adults over there, though the science on it is still very contested.
See, these are unforeseen crises, right? It's like a war. If you really see, during the World War, when penicillin was there, it did not have enough data to say that it would work in so many situations. But something had to be done to slow down the crisis that is happening. This is like a war situation. Anything that can slow down or give more time or reduce the rate of hospitalization or spread of disease, it would be explored, even with little evidence at that point of time. And as the time goes by, the drug authority can always go on adding further instruction to the medical practitioners. I think there is need of a lot of exploratory mechanisms, not only medications such as ivermectin, but many other, either in terms of vaccination or many other drugs that are coming in, which can reduce the hospitalization rates or shorten the illness or reduce the mortality. Right. In that way, I think it's worth it.
All right. Well, an interesting take there. Thank you so much, doctors, for sparing the time and joining us on the channel this morning.
Thank you. Good day.
Well, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll get more news on the other side. Stay with us.